Okay, so that was a problem. And in this video, I'll show you the solution.
Good morning YouTube and welcome back to my channel. Let's start with the first issue, the walls. After clearing out the old workshop with the help of friends, I started plastering the walls, all by myself. With the walls prepped, it was time to tackle the ceiling. No, I'm not the tallest guy, so I came up with this slightly ridiculous solution. I built DIY stilts with an old pair of shoes and some wooden blocks. And you know what? They worked perfectly. I could comfortably reach every corner of the ceiling. For the plaster on the ceiling, I used a powder-based gypsum thin coat. You mix this fine dust with water and it transforms into a paste that is scientifically engineered to get absolutely everywhere. Let me tell you, this was one of the messiest, most soul-destroying jobs of the entire renovation. It felt like it took an eternity. My arms ached, my back ached. By the end I was wearing more plaster than the ceiling was. I have a new profound respect for anyone who does this for a living. The walls looked pretty awful in that condition. So once the plaster dust had settled, it was time for the first big visual change, the paint. I didn't want anything halfway, so I went straight for a dark moody grey to cover the walls and ceiling, aiming for a serious focused workshop vibe. My wife walked in, took one look and said,
"You need some color in here, or it's going to feel like you're working in a cave."
She had a point, so I painted two of the walls green. The second wall is right behind the camera, which you can't see right now. With the painting done, it was time to face the next problem, light. I needed new light. So I broke out my €50 Timo laser level to line up the new lights. For the lighting I bought 8 of these LED panels, which only cost about €18 each. Anyone who's ever bought workshop lighting knows that's suspiciously cheap. We'll see if these were a bargain or a huge mistake in the long run. Okay, all 8 of those suspiciously cheap lights are mounted and wired. This was the moment of truth. Would they be a brilliant bargain or a complete waste of money? There was only one way to find out. Then, one small detail that was bothering me were the silver heating pipes running across the ceiling. They were just too distracting. A quick coat of black spray paint helped them blend in perfectly and just disappear. It's the little things that make a difference. So, about that green paint, my wife saw the finished walls and her exact words were,
"That green is extremely ugly."
so she drove me to the hardware store and picked out a new color herself. And here we go again. With the walls finally settled, it was time to start the floor. And for this, I wanted to do something special, something I've never seen done anywhere else. I wanted to embed my logo directly into the epoxy. To do that, I designed and 3D printed a massive 2-meter wide template. Of course, my printer isn't that big, so I had to print it in many sections, connected with dovetails. The print alone took several days and honestly I wasn't even sure if this whole idea would work. Once I had the position marked, I started by priming the floor with a special 1K primer for epoxy from Epoxy. Sadly, not sponsored. After priming the logo area, I finished assembling the template and put it in place. Oh, and before I forget, I also used packaging tape and a special release spray so that the epoxy resin could be easily removed from the template after hardening. To get the perfect seal between the template and the floor, I used painter's acrylic. I was worried silicone would stick too much, and I'd never be able to remove it cleanly. Then it was time for the first pour. I started with the inner white part of the logo. While that was curing, I primed the rest of the workshop in grey. After a day or two, I could carefully remove the inner part of the template with pliers. The excess acrylic caulk came off easily with a flathead screwdriver and a chisel. Next up was the middle green section. I mixed some green and white color paste into the epoxy and poured it. I waited another 24 hours and
It's the next day. Let's see if we have some leakage. And yeah, we have some leakage.
damn, I discovered a few small leaks where the epoxy had crept under the template. Luckily, because the epoxy wasn't fully cured yet, the manufacturer says that takes 7 days, I was able to remove the leaks pretty easily with a chisel. Then it was time for the outer darker green section, followed by the final white circle, waiting 24 hours between each pour and cleaning up a few more small leaks along the way. And with the template finally removed, it was looking really good. Now for the main event. I mixed up about 50 kilograms of the main floor coating. I chose a metallic satin grey. To walk on the wet floor, I used nail shoes that you strap over your regular shoes. Using a rubber squeegee, I spread the resin as evenly as possible. The great thing is that it self-levels to a large extent. And another bonus, the manufacturer claims it doesn't release toxic fumes while curing, but I wore a respirator with 3M filters just to be safe. Better safe than sorry. After a few days of curing, I inspected the floor and found a problem. I had poured the logo slightly too thick. I thought the main floor coating would be thicker, but it's only about 1 to 2 millimeters. The logo was now a raised trip hazard. I had to level it or the whole floor would be uneven. So I decided to try something really coarse and brutal, an electric hand planer. If this didn't work, I probably would have had to chisel the entire logo out and start over, but to my huge relief, it worked surprisingly well. After a final sanding, the logo was perfectly level, but now it was completely matte from all the abrasion. But having watched dozens of epoxy videos from other creators, I know a little trick. A clear coat brings the shine right back. I wasn't painting it with lacquer like in all the other videos are shown. I used a special industrial top coat for scratch and chemical resistance. I did a quick test without filming on a small piece and it worked really well. So I did it also with the entire logo. This final coat made the entire floor a bit more matte, which was intentional. It's a workshop after all, it's going to get dirty. With the floor from hell finally done, it was time to build the new workshop furniture. Now I live in Austria, and because of the flood, we were lucky to get some support from our insurance and also from a government disaster fund. This gave me a bit of a budget to buy new cabinets. There was just one small problem. The cabinets only came with these bright orange handles. That just wasn't going to work with my color scheme. Thankfully, they were easy to remove. A quick spray with some green lacquer and they fit the rest of the workshop perfectly. Normally, I would have built everything myself, but that would have taken an enormous amount of time. And honestly, I want to spend my time building things in the workshop, not just building the workshop itself. This whole renovation already took over 6 months, trying to balance it with 2 small kids and a full-time job. The flood taught me a painful but valuable lesson. Seeing how my old wooden setup was instantly destroyed made one thing clear. The new workshop had to be resilient, and the new cabinets must be made out of steel. The huge advantage of steel is, if the worst should ever happen again, these cabinets can handle it. Wood just doesn't stand a chance in a flood. My miter saw is just too big for the new benches, which is a problem. So next up, a custom miter saw station. My saw is too big to just live on the workbench, and I couldn't buy anything that fit my needs perfectly. So this had to be a custom build. I started with a simple, sturdy body with height adjustable feet. Then I gave it a coat of furniture lacquer in a color called Volcanic Rock. The drawers I'll build a little later. And between all of that steps, I hung up a TV so I can watch movies and YouTube while I'm working on my projects. Now for the next big challenge. My home's heating system lives in my workshop. I wanted to hide it completely, partly for aesthetics and partly to protect it from dust and damage. So I built a complete enclosure out of OSB panels, with doors placed strategically to access all the important parts of the heating system. On the right side of the enclosure is where my new DIY dust collection will live. I also had the idea to make smart use of the walls on this new enclosure. So I decided to install a French Cleat system. I haven't mentioned one negative aspect of the floor. Let me explain. Over here is where I'll be doing all my metal work. Cutting with the angle grinder, welding and so on. I don't know how heat resistant the epoxy floor is, so to protect it I put down this 2 mm thick plastic mat. I bought it on Amazon. It cost about 15 to 20 euros per meter. I'll drop a link in the description. It was easy to cut to size with a utility knife. For this corner I was also able to salvage one metal workbench from the flood, which will sit next to my new metal cabinets. A big empty box under the miter saw is just wasted potential. So, to truly finish the station, I got to work building a set of custom drawers designed to make every square inch of that space count. The goal was to create a ton of organized storage and finally give all my smaller tools and accessories a proper home. Now I'm mounting a gadget that everyone should have in their workshop. It's so useful and doesn't cost much at all. I installed an automatic cable reel in the middle of the workshop. This is extremely practical for having an extension cord ready to go anywhere for my corded power tools. In my old workshop, I actually built one of these myself from an old vacuum cleaner's cord retractor, so this is a nice little upgrade. I will put a link in the description as well. Now for a small detail that is personally very important to me. This was a little ugly handmade thing from my father. It's a kind of wall-mounted candle holder made from an old roof tile and a tree fungus. I converted it into a small lamp. It's the last handmade piece from my father that I still own, which is why it has a perfect place in my workshop. Below it I hung one of the last photos I have of him. It's an old black and white picture from the late 60s or early 70s, when he was about 16 years old. To keep the theme going, I even gave my bandsaw a quick paint job, taking it from yellow to green to match the rest of the shop. My old bench vise was another casualty of the flood. It just wouldn't close properly anymore. I found this old metal vise on an online marketplace for used things like Facebook Marketplace for 40 euros. A little tip for you guys: always check the price of a new one first. A few weeks after I bought this, I saw a new, better one at the hardware store for 60 euros. I took the whole thing apart, cleaned it and treated it with this rust converter, which is a real miracle weapon. It chemically converts the rust, prevents new rust from forming and acts as a primer all in one. After a coat of green paint, it was good as new. The next minor problem I had was that my new miter saw station drawers still needed handles. I figured why not make them myself. I took an old broken 25mm masonry drill and cut it into 4 equal pieces. After that I bent some small metal pieces to angles and welded them on the drill pieces. After the same rust converter and paint treatment, I mounted them on the drawers. Even though I'm no pro welder, I think they turned out looking pretty cool. The next big step was to finish my dust collection system. The old filter assembly didn't survive the flood, which was fine by me, because it was only a temporary test setup anyway. I started by cutting a circle out of a 3mm steel plate and welding a steel strip around it to create a sort of lidded cylinder. And a little tip at this point: always wear long sleeves when you're welding. The light it creates is UV light, and because I was just wearing a t-shirt, as you can see, I got a massive sunburn. Okay, back to the project. Next, I cut the main inlet for the 120mm dust collection pipe. For stability reasons, I also welded a 3mm thick metal strip to the lower side of the cylinder. Before painting, I went over the whole thing with that miracle rust converter I used on the vise, then gave it a durable coat of spray paint. Once it was dry, I fitted the pipe and sealed the joint to make it perfectly airtight. With the housing complete, I had to devise a way to attach the filter bag. My initial plan was to rivet on a few small metal tabs that would act as simple clamps. Yeah, spoiler alert, that didn't work so well. The tabs were too thin and just weren't stiff enough. But in the end, I just mounted the entire assembly inside the OSB enclosure and secured the filter bag anyway with a good old-fashioned hose clamp. Next is a major problem of every workshop: accessibility. We all want our most important tools to be easily and quickly accessible. So to make use of the main wall space, I installed more OSB panels, cut perfectly to fit between the cabinets and around the electrical outlets. The thickness was chosen so that the French Cleat strips would sit just proud of the electrical conduits. The only place without panels is behind the miter saw station, where the dust collection pipes will be mounted. For the cleats themselves, I'm ripping down strips of 8mm plywood. Now 8mm is plenty strong for what I have in mind, which is mostly hanging individual hand tools. A little pro tip though: if you're planning to hang really heavy things like full cabinets, you definitely want to use thicker material, maybe 12 or even 15mm plywood. And of course, to tie everything in with the workshop's color scheme, I gave all the strips a nice coat of green paint. A project this big isn't just about heavy construction, it's also about creating the systems that make the space work. So while other parts of the workshop are still a construction site, I wanted to get a critical system in place: organization. This is easily one of the most satisfying jobs, and I'm finally getting to use a system I've dreamed of for years: Gridfinity. And the result is just incredible. Suddenly all my rotor bits and driver bits have a perfect specific home. No more rattling around in a loose container. everything is visible and easy to grab. And the best part is, it's not just for tools. It's perfect for finally taming that classic junk drawer and turning it into an organized space for pens, notepads and all the other small things that get lost in a workshop. Now, I'd love to show you all my drawers perfectly kitted out like this, but this is the reality. This system is a marathon, not a sprint. It consumes an enormous amount of filament and a ton of print time. So, getting the entire workshop converted to Gridfinity will be an ongoing project for the next few weeks and months, but that's the beauty of it. It's a living system that I can adapt and add to over time as my needs change. It's 3D printing for the workshop at its absolute best. And the final construction step for the workshop build was connecting the dust collection to the miter saw station. I mounted 4 50mm pipes to the back wall, which all of them have 3D printed blast gates and 2 of them will connect directly to the saw. The other 2 blast gates are for my disc and belt sander, but I still need to build the connector for that machine. That's a project for another day. And that's it. After more than 6 months of planning, demolition, building, painting and problem solving, the workshop is finally done. It's been a marathon. Juggling this project with a full-time job and 2 little kids was a huge challenge. But standing here now, it was worth every single second. I finally have a space that's not just functional, but a place that truly inspires me to create. And the best part is, the journey is just beginning. Thank you so much for following along with this massive project. What do you think of the transformation? Let me know your favorite part down in the comments. And if you want to see all the cool new things I'm going to build in this space, make sure you're subscribed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.